Hello and welcome to the Cinementalist podcast for cinementalist.com. My name's Andy. Sitting opposite me is Liam, and sitting next to me is Floki, our bearded dragon mascot. How's it going, matey?
Good, man. How about you?
All right, yeah, other than some technical problems right before we started to record.
Yeah, fuck's sake. Right, we're ripping and roaring to go.
I'm looking at the waveform at the moment and it's running fine. We had the weirdest thing. I've got everything set up ready to go. So all you need to do is plug in the recording interface, press record, and you're rocking. And it just wouldn't pick up anything at all. And then out of nowhere, it just suddenly started working again. So let's assume it's going to continue to do that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. That's like an audio engineer's worst nightmare right there. But hey, ho. So if this podcast is only 10 minutes long, you know why. How have you been, man? What have you been up to this week?
Just working, like watching bits and pieces. There's always some awesome, some not so. Got we were talking earlier, got vaccinations booked. So next week you'll be hearing us as Bill Gates drones going on for hours and hours about how great Microsoft is, because obviously it's encoding some chip of his in our DNA. That's the story doing the rounds.
I wonder what Bill Gates will do once he controls us.
Make us play chess with him and animated Steve Jobs. I don't know.
Do you reckon that's what Bill Gates does on his days off?
I'm so lonely and so bored.
Yeah, no, I've suddenly realised actually that mine's scheduled for next Wednesday and we record on Thursdays. So if I do have any of the side effects or weird symptoms, I'll be right in the middle of that when we record. So that'll be fun.
Awesome. Well,
good time.
Hopefully it will align with something that you've watched that isn't so good, because then you can absolutely furiously slate it.
That'll be even worse. I reckon it'll just make me collapse. You know, I just can't be bothered.
The thing about this is,
yeah, trust me, it's good. I just can't explain why. Anyway, yes, news this week. Film
Indeed.
news. Another slow week, but hey ho, here we go. First thing I've got here. Nicolas Cage, Ron Perlman, Ashley Greene, and more, starring in action thriller The Retirement Plan. Heard anything about this one?
No, but I love Cage and I love Perlman as well, actually. So, yeah, please go
It's
ahead.
a good pairing, actually, Cage and Perlman.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think they're both awesome in their respective ways. So them sharing the screen together that's definitely something that's going to get me excited.
Yeah, this is an article from Empire Online. We got Tim J. Brown wrote and will direct this one, which finds Greene playing a woman named Ashley who, with her young daughter Sarah, is caught up in a criminal enterprise that puts their lives at risk. She turns to the only person who can help, her estranged father Matt, played by Nick Cage, currently living the life of a retired beach bum in the Cayman Islands. Their reunion is fleeting as they are soon tracked down on the island by crime boss Donnie, played by Jackie Earle Haley, and his lieutenant Bobo, played by Perlman. As Ashley, Sarah, and Matt become entangled in an increasingly dangerous web, Ashley quickly learns her father had a secret past that she knew nothing about, and that there is more to her father than meets the eye. So we're thinking this is Nick Cage, Beach Bum, is actually John Wick.
The villains are Ron Perlman and Jackie Earle Haley.
Yes.
Okay, even though...
As Donnie and Bobo, respectively.
Okay, because you said action thriller, that especially paired with Nicolas Cage, it would be, you could be forgiven for expecting something utterly absurd, but just off the back of that casting alone, I need to see this. Because this if it's in my head, this is just sounding fucking awesome. So I'll be keeping my eyes peeled for that one.
I mean, anything with Nick Cage always has the potential to go one of two ways, doesn't it? It's either flat out awful or it's absolutely amazing. He's a 50-50.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I love the man. Like, I recently rewatched Snake Eyes by Brian De Palma, and even though that script has some flaws, Nick Cage's performance is just fucking phenomenal. Like, the first 20 minutes of that film, you just feel like you've just had a shot of adrenaline right in your fucking ticker because of how mental Cage is. And it's really vicarious. So I find that, given the right material, he always manages to make something quite dazzling in his own wacky way. And I mean, Ron Perlman in the first place, but Ron Perlman as someone named Bobo.
Again, worth the price of entry, isn't it?
Oh dear, yeah, looking forward to that one, man. Sounds cool.
Yeah, and The Retirement Plan. So I really do think this is going to be Nick Cage is, secret badass extraordinaire.
It's a bit of a bland title, but
hey, if Keanu Reeves can do it, I'm sure Nick Cage can as well. We shall see on that one.
Absolutely.
More news on Knives Out 2.
Oh yes,
and its super star-studded cast that it's going for. We were talking the other week about Dave Bautista
Yes.
Dave Bautista was added to the cast, and Edward Norton. We now have Kate Hudson as well.
Oh, wow.
So we got Catherine Hahn, Dave Bautista, Janelle Monáe, Leslie Odom Jr., Edward Norton, and now Kate Hudson are appearing in Knives Out 2. So it's definitely pulling out their little black book of Hollywood stars that like to be in a witty detective script.
Well, I mean, yeah, the first one. I mean, you had obviously you had Jamie Lee Curtis, you had Don Johnson, you had Michael Shannon, Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, it was an all-star.
They had
super
some
group,
great names in it, and like it sounds like so far they've got some very cool people queued up for this one.
It's also a great thing that this is coming out in sort of a weekly basis for the news segment on the podcast.
Yeah.
Because this takes up a couple of minutes every time. We can just read out the most latest one and go, oh, yeah, we really like them. But
Thank you.
go. Yeah, thank you very much, Ryan Johnson. Your casting continues to provide content for the internet. Well done. Streaming service news here. Paramount Plus. You aware of Paramount Plus?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, this is another one of the really big studios trying to jump on the streaming bandwagon.
Muscling on the VOD, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. They plan to debut one original movie a week beginning in 2022. First one of these, well, there's sort of a joint announcement this as well because they seem to be really hyping Infinite, which is a sci-fi thriller starring Mark Wahlberg. And
you're going to love that.
I know, right? There's actually a bit in this article. This is from the Hollywood Reporter. And CEO Bob Bakish has announced that the first quarter earnings conference call thing, really, really trying to hype up Infinite and also Paramount Plus releasing new movies all the time. But he said Infinite would create a lot of noise. I've seen the film. It's a fun film. People love Mark Wahlberg. Well, I fucking don't. So there you go. I'm fully prepared, by the way, that everybody else seems to like Mark Wahlberg. I know I'm technically wrong.
I mentioned on the premium because I feel very positively about both versions of The Gambler, including the 2014 one starring Wahlberg.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it was his best performance. And number two, it was very much unlike the performances that he's most commonly associated with.
I think that's the thing I get sick of with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Is he does seem to just play this fast-talking, tough guy, you know. It's the same
that's the thing. And in The Gambler, he's not remotely like that at all. So if he did
check
more,
it out already, I should.
Well, I mean, if to me at least, it demonstrates his ability to traverse what you just described. So why doesn't he push himself a bit more to do stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just well.
Yeah, so essentially this is part of their Mountain of Movies marketing campaign. You get it because Paramount's got the mountain logo. Very, very clever. Yeah, very good. Where we will highlight thousands of new movies we're adding to Paramount Plus, including blockbuster hits and exclusive originals. The CEO said 1,000 additional movies will go live on the streamer in early June, with additional titles following through July, bringing the total to over 2,500. Hits like The Avengers and Skyfall will be available on the service soon, as well as a bunch of great Paramount films like Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Rocket Man, Sonic the Hedgehog, and more. Great being a very subjective term. Paramount in February unveiled a new deal with Epix that also gives the studio more flexibility in its post-theatrical windowing strategy, allowing for, I'm bored with that sentence already. Paramount Plus, they're going to be showing a lot of films soon.
All of the titles that you just mentioned do nothing for me whatsoever.
Rocket Man, I was talking about that the other week. I do rate Rocket Man.
Oh, yes. Fair enough. But Sonic the Hedgehog, Ghost Protocol.
Well, here's one you actually might be interested in. Of course, this includes A Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh,
so
yes.
I know you're planning to go to the cinema to see that one. It will be available on the streaming service for 45 days after it opens in theatres. One thing I haven't checked, actually, which I normally do when these streaming services come up, is whether you can get a UK account. Because you still can't for HBO Max, although they keep threatening a European release. They haven't done it yet. I'm willing to bet Paramount Plus, you probably can't get it in the UK. But I'm prepared to be wrong on that, but I've got a funny feeling.
Well, you know, as we've said many times, it's perfectly within the bounds of the law to obtain yourself a VPN, and VPNs can be used for certain things.
Oh, but that would be, validating a dubious moral outlook, and we on the Cinementalist podcast do that every single week.
Yes. We are not the paragons of goody-goody ethics.
No, definitely
because
not.
life would suck.
There are other podcasts for you if that's your thing. And last article here, and this is a big one, actually. We covered sort of the early stages of this ages ago, the rumors, but it's now become official. Amazon has agreed to buy the historic MGM studios for $8.45 billion, which is 5.97 billion pounds. Yeah, MGM is one of Hollywood's most famous studios, of course, and produced classic films like Some Like It Hot and Singing in the Rain. The sale will give the tech giant's prime streaming service access to a huge back catalogue of content. An Amazon executive said on Wednesday, it's very exciting and provides so many opportunities for high-quality storytelling. Mike Hopkins, Senior Vice President of Prime Video and Amazon Studios, added, the real financial value behind this deal is the treasure trove of intellectual property and the deep catalogue that we plan to reimagine and develop together with MGM's talented team. Reimagine, yes.
I don't like that word.
No, I didn't like that word either. I don't like this. And it's one of those things, isn't it, where Amazon is very easy to hate, but it puts people in a hell of a bind because we all want to hate Amazon for essentially trying to take over the world and take over just about every single commodity that you can spend your money on. On the other hand, they are very, very convenient. I know many, many people, myself included, that really dislike Amazon's business model. And then when you go to buy something and you look it up online, where's its cheapest and where it's going to get to you fastest? It's Amazon, isn't it?
There is going to be, you wait, there will be Amazon car dealerships, Amazon real estate company.
Yeah.
We'll get you a house, we'll get you a car.
I imagine I imagine in the US that's probably already a thing.
Like fucking Robert Prosky in Thief, man. Your wife can't have kids, we'll get you a baby. We'll get your baby from somewhere. Yeah. So it's
Amazon Stalk, right? Huh? Amazon Stalk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't underestimate Jeff Bezos, man. He's an insidious motherfucker.
Yeah, it's one of those things as well. I mean, let's not pretend that MGM in the first place weren't this big, huge corporate entity that would have done what Amazon's doing if they could. I don't like Amazon buying everything the same as anybody else, but at the same time, they do provide a super convenient and surprisingly cheap service, which sounds like I'm advertising for them, and I'm really not. Jeff Bezos, you're a wanker. But, it's sort of the inevitable thing, isn't it? I wonder how many more big film companies will be swallowed up by the Amazon megacorp. It's getting very cyberpunk, this near future, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say... I know if there's one thing I deplore, it's logical fallacies, so I don't want to do an appeal to hypocrisy, but I just hope that anyone who condemns Amazon, or maybe condemns people who are frequent patrons of Amazon, I hope, in order to be ethically consistent, they only use small businesses in general. Because if you damn Amazon, but then you go and get your weekly shop at Tesco, I think that your ethics are in question.
Yeah,
so if you're gonna like throw shade, be consistent.
To be fair, though, it is one of those things where, we're very anti-corporate as a podcast and as a business, always have been. That's why we don't advertise other people's products. But at the same time, you can use the services and criticize the system in one movement. It's like those people that those Occupy protests, where one of the chief critiques from right-wing organizations were like, "Oh yeah, well they don't like late-stage capitalism, but look, they've all got iPhones." It's like, well, yeah, but their point is still valid. You know what I mean? You can participate in the system and hate the system at the same time, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, 100%. I suppose what I was driving more at was Amazon is not the only boogeyman.
No, far from it.
So, and a lot of people say, like, oh, my God, I can't believe you give Amazon your money, whereas they will also unthinkingly, in turn, give their money to corporate giants who aren't exactly paragons of ethics either. So it's just that's my only gripe, really.
Actually, that ties quite nicely into the last part of this article as well, because the Amazon MGM deal comes within weeks of telecoms giant AT&T agreeing a $43 billion deal to combine its Warner Media unit with Discovery to create a new streaming giant. The tie-up brings one of Hollywood's biggest studios and Discovery's channels under the same ownership, but also marks the entry of another player into the market. So this is all getting very conglomerate very, very quickly, isn't it? Like the streaming bandwagon is officially, it's here now. You don't get that whole... It was so nice when it first started, when you can have like one Netflix account, maybe one other streaming platform, and get like 70% of the content. Now it's all divided up all over the shop. And that, in the end, I mean, I think it's partly bad for the consumer and partly good for the consumer. Having everything consolidated together in one place is a nice thing, but at the same time, you're going to get executives breathing down creative people's neck, and that's never, ever good for creating quality content. The more corporate it gets, the more money focused, the more they look at user metrics and things like, how many episodes of a series did you watch? When did you pause it? Did the product placement work for you? That's all algorithm-based social engineering, essentially, that they're going to be using really, really hard on every new bit of content they produce. That's what Amazon's into. That's what Netflix is into. And they're getting more and more powerful with it every single day. Did we expect anything less? Of course not. But it's a shame to see it coming. You know what I mean?
We're looking at a slow garroting of independent cinema.
Does look that way, yeah. But then you can make the argument that independent cinema was always being slow garroted, and this is nothing new, really. This is just big companies doing what big companies do. As we said, MGM's a big company. Like Warner Brothers is a big company, Warner Media, rather.
Quick, you guys, John Sayles, you still do stuff. Jeremy Saunier, Macon Blair, you guys start making lots more shit now, please.
I've been reading some articles the other day as well. There's a nice article in The Guardian, funnily enough, about there's a load of filmmakers sort of espousing the virtues of shooting films on iPhones. And the fact that the fact that it democratizes cinema. But they were saying, actually, the weird thing that's happening is you would expect the cinema as a result to get more diverse and to have more people being able to do it on a smaller budget, which is sort of true. But at the same time, there's like a heavy pressure from bigger companies only to fund really, really big projects and go, well, screw it, we don't need to fund these little projects anymore or do small fringe projects because they can make it by themselves for 50 quid and a can of Coke. So forget funding those guys. Let's only fund the latest Avengers film, the latest Indiana, the big franchise stuff.
Yeah, because right at this very moment, I can only think of one thing off the top of my head, but the movie Tangerine was filmed on an iPhone. That was a great film. So yeah, it doesn't. There's nothing. There's nothing I would argue to worry about qualitatively when it comes to shooting things on an iPhone because great works have already been made via that method.
I just hope people are still, a lot of people these days are investing in projects, there's sort of Kickstarter and the crowdfunding and that kind of thing is a big way to get these sort of pictures done. And we've seen some good crowdfunded efforts as well over the past couple of years. We reviewed quite a few of them. A lot of them are surprisingly good.
Blue Ruin was crowdfunded.
Yeah, and especially now that CGI has become a lot easier to work with. You don't need 1,000 people working on the CGI for something anymore. 20 guys or even less can do quite a passable job of it. So that's all kind of good. But at the same time, creative people do need to eat and they need to pay their rent and they need to, and people who work in all aspects of film production, whether it's, sound or casting or whatever. There's so many jobs there that people absolutely rely on. And I just hope that these big corporations buying everything up and putting everything under an umbrella and being really safe in the way that they greenlight projects. I hope that those small independent makers that are doing really interesting things aren't being left out as a result of it. We will see as time goes on, I suppose.
Yeah. Keep fingers crossed on that one because that would be a crying shame indeed. So.
Well, without getting too down, then let's get on to the fucking reviews, shall we? Because that is quite a depressing thought. If there's a cyberpunk future, I'd much rather it be sort of, Blade Runner.
A load of psychopathic androids running around.
Yeah, I'm not looking for late stage capitalism. I'm looking for post capitalism. That post apocalyptic world thing. That's
post scarcity societies have always fascinated me. The concept of that.
Or dare I say, even Star Trek. Where's my Starship Enterprise, man? I'm still campaigning.
What's the job? We've got enough for everybody.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah.
Anyways, yes. What do we have to review this week, Liam?
So first up, we have the brand new effort from. I can't help but pronounce his name this way. Zack Snyder, Army of the Dead. So this is essentially Snyder's homage to Dawn of the Dead. Because I believe, didn't he directed a remake of that in 2004, didn't he?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I caught half of it.
And this has been on his screenplay back burner for a number of years now, but he's obviously finalised it. So this film opens with a US Army convoy driving away from Area 51 and they're going down a sort of desolate highway that's very close to the Las Vegas Strip and it's very dark and dusky outside and we cut to a couple of soldiers driving the trucks who are sort of bullshitting each other, jokingly deliberating over what the contents of their vehicle is, what have they been given to transport from Area 51 of all places to wherever they're going. And as this is taking place, a couple who have just been married are hurtling from the other direction down the same highway and they're all crazy and excited and they begin to get very, very amorous with each other whilst the hubby is driving the car. And this leads to a head-on collision with aforementioned US Army convoy. So the couple are killed immediately. A lot of the soldiers are gravely injured. They get out of their trucks, radio into base, say, well, we just had a really major crash. There's been some fatalities. What should we do now? And the person on the other end goes, get your men out of there right the fuck now. And then we discover why, because one of the soldiers who is approaching an overturned vehicle is brutally attacked by some lumbering 7-foot pallid-skinned freak of a thing that is completely impervious to any bullets that's fired at it or fist or blade that is thrust at it. And this thing subsequently kills this entire convoy of US soldiers in a very brutal fashion. And 2 of these victims are shown reanimated as zombies who then approach their, I suppose, what would you call him, their inductor into the life, the zombie life.
Zombie number 1.
Yeah. They got the index patient, the index man. They sit up, now zombified, and they walk up behind him, and the 3 of them overlook a sort of a cliff top or hilltop and look down upon the shimmering lights of the city of Las Vegas. And then bang, title card, Army of the Dead. So Las Vegas is decimated by a zombie plague. And all of this is run down during the opening credits of the film, as opposed to sort of a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes of exposition that shows it's a very fast montage, essentially, of the city being completely ravaged by zombies and mercenaries who subsequently team up to come in and do the best they can to quash the zombie infection, rescue whoever they're able to rescue, kill as many infected as they can, and eventually the government really strongly quarantines the city to the extent that it's virtually impossible to get into or to get out of, and they just leave it as it is. And the president engineers a plan to nuke Las Vegas at a given time and date. They never specify who the president is, but given when this was filmed, you do get a good idea of who the president is they're referring to, because at one point they say the president wants to bring his nuke date forward because it would be quote unquote really kind of cool.
Okay,
so, I'm not. I don't know if he didn't want.
There used to be like a joke as to how bad presidents would get in the future, and then it became about one specific.
So I think
president,
the POTUS that they're alluding to in there, they don't like relentlessly allude to him throughout the film, but the couple of times they do, you get a pretty good idea of
those Hollywood liberal elite.
Yeah, fucking bourgeois liberal dickheads. Who do they think they are? Just humanists, I suppose. But so it cuts to a little time after the fact. And one of the most respected mercenaries who actually earned, I think it was a Congressional Medal of Freedom for his efforts in neutralizing the zombie threat of Las Vegas and helping to rescue a lot of people, is one Scott Ward, played by Dave Bautista. And it's not exactly clear as to how much time has passed between the shutdown of Vegas and the present timeline. But I think it's been a little while. But Scott Ward is now working in a burger joint. He's a burger cook. And one day, Bly Tanaka, who is a rather mysterious Japanese billionaire, he walks into the diner and he asks Scott Ward to join him at the table and says, here's the thing. There's a casino in Vegas. And within that casino is a vault. And it contains $200 million of my money. The city's about to be nuked any time now. I cannot afford to lose it. I really need the cash. So essentially what I'm offering you is the chance to assemble a team of your choosing, go into the city, which is obviously very perilous, get my 200 million out of that casino vault, and in exchange, I will give you $50 million to divide amongst your team however you see fit. So Scott deliberates over it, but he does end up obviously taking the fucking task. Otherwise, there'd be no film, would there?
When the credits roll.
And he initially approaches. So you've got people like Maria, played by Ana de la Guerra, Vandero, Amari Hardwick, who's another sort of big, brawny badass, rather like Scott. You've got Matthias Schweighofer, who's Dieter, who is a rather eccentric and out of his element German safecracker, who they bring along to open the vault. You've got Tig Notaro as Peters. She's like the wisecracking helicopter pilots because they're not allowed to fly in to Vegas, but they can fly out of it. So conveniently, on the roof of this casino they have to break into, there is a helicopter placed there. So they have to go in on foot and kill as many zombies or shamblers, as they call them, as possible without getting mullered. But then once they got the loot, they can ascend to the rooftop and get away in the helicopter, which is what Peters is for. And then you've got Mikey Guzman played by Raul Castillo, who has, in a touch I kind of liked, he uploads YouTube videos of him like shooting zombies with a kind of like video game life bars. He's kind of aestheticized it that way, which I thought was kind of amusing. But so they get this team. Scott contacts his estranged daughter, Kate, played by Ellie Purnell, who resents him for several things and works in a quarantine camp trying to help people. And he says to her, I'll give you $15 million if you can drive us to the quarantine zone so we can sneak into Las Vegas. And Kate says, no, I'm coming with you because somebody that I care about is lost in there. So I'm coming with you. You'll either take me with you and protect me, or I will sneak in after you and take my chances. Either way, I'm coming with you. So, yes, they get into there, and the city is ruled by alphas, who are essentially the top zombie cast that possess a lot of essentially the same kind of mental acuity that your average reasonably intelligent human being would. So as opposed to like ripping someone apart with immediacy, alphas, they take people captive, and you're able to bargain with them in order to enter Las Vegas, so they won't necessarily fuck you up as long as you give them some kind of toll that they're willing to accept. So the team do that and also try to make their way through the more mindless beasts so they can get to the casino, all the while watched over by Garrett Dillahunt's, who is like one of Tanaka's shadowy henchmen. So yeah, that's the basic setup. Pretty clear?
Yeah, fairly. Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of characters.
Yes, there is a lot of characters. So, Army of the Dead. This is a weird one because Dave Bautista, I mentioned liking Dave Bautista in Blade Runner 2049, and I liked him in Bushwick, and I like him in this. You know, he's got something kind of like the way that Dwayne Johnson, another ex-wrestler who's forayed into cinema, has got something. There's something I like about Bautista. He can inhabit roles quite well. None of the performances are necessarily badly executed, but this film has just got such a weird problem with trying to find its feet when it comes to its tone, because there's lots and lots of gags, the overwhelming majority of which I don't think worked. It was more, not even like it was more eye rolls induced than anything. And then in the next scene, you get some really overwrought kind of heart-to-heart, soppy, reconnective dialogue between Scott and his daughter. And so it does this weird sort of flip-flopping between saccharine sequences and goofy humor, and I think that it just really confuses the tone of the film. It doesn't feel right at all. And it does also have plot holes that you can drive a bus through. I've heard it through the grapevine that I think they might be trying to option this for sequels. If that's true, then whatever the screenplay is going to be for that really, really needs some belt tightening, because there were too many moments in this film where I thought, well, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. I know this is not an art film that we're supposed to take especially seriously, but still, if the conceit is meant to be bought vicariously, there's so many things that don't add up. One thing I will give it is that I think the horror sequences, a lot of the not just the action scenes, but a lot of the suspense predicated on the zombies, I really liked the way it was done. For example, the Alphas, who are the ruling zombie cast in Las Vegas, they're presided over by their king. His name is Zeus, and he's actually the opening zombie who mullers the convoy. And he has a queen. And the sequences depicting those two, they are it's scary stuff, because I think the creature design is quite good. And I think that the way they're played, like the queen is this freakish, blood iris, sort of like a horrible, spindly phantom thing that she's got like this sort of incredibly unnerving grin. And I think there's a lot of close-ups where you think that's, this is some cool SFX going on here. And the way that these creatures are utilised for some jumpier moments, but also just moments of sheer brutality, sans jump scares. I think that Snyder did that really well. But all in all, I didn't like any of the jokes. I don't think that the moments, the moments that were supposed to have more dramatic clout, I don't think that melded well with the humour element at all. Ultimately, didn't really give too much of a fuck about any of the characters, even though it tries to shoehorn in a really heartstrings tugging climax between Dave Bautista and his kid. It just all felt very... it's not fun. It's not fun in the same way that a Romero or a Carpenter is. I know that he was trying to go for something in that ballpark.
Yeah, you'd think... I've seen the trailer for this, and I've seen a lot of the promo media for it, and it's going for that neon lit, super splashy... We're doing zombies in Vegas and we're doing them, splashy violence and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Does seem like it should be shooting for the fun roller coaster ride angle.
This is the thing, and this is something that actually irritated me quite significantly, because I really do, I like the zombies in this film, and I like the way that they are utilised. But it is a classic example of everything, all of the other elements surrounding that. They just cannot find their feet, and it's really frustrating because they've got some cool ideas. What is it, Siegfried and Roy?
Yeah.
Valentine, one of their tigers, is a zombie and is used as the guardian of Las Vegas.
Right.
So there's a cool bit where the crew enters this junkyard to get into the city, and you see Valentine roaming around, and it's very much a what the fuck is that moment. Stuff like that, very cool. Stuff involving the alphas and a lot of the combat sequences, very, very cool. They gave me the sensation that I was hoping for. Everything else just really doesn't work at all. So it's really frustrating because I want to say to people, these moments are really, you get a good kick out of it. There's some really good suspense, and it does make you feel a bit nerve tugged, and this is some really exciting stuff, but it would, I think, in order to do that, there would have to be a justification in the way it pays off, or some other kind of current justifiable current running through it, but there really isn't. So it's a bit of a bind, that one, because, you could just get someone to time all the cool bits for you and then just watch those, but then you
watch the highlight reel on YouTube. Yeah.
But then you wouldn't have any fucking narrative context whatsoever. So it's just like, why do you do this, Snyder? Why do you have a film that has some really, really cool moments in it, and obviously has had a lot of production effort put into it, and you fucking drop the ball? You drop the ball when it comes to the tone. You drop the ball when it comes to the gags. You drop the ball when it comes to the narrative not making no fucking sense. So shame on you. But The Army of the Dead is light years better than what I'm about to bring up next. The Woman in the Window. Netflix original. We familiar with The Woman in the Window?
I saw it flash up on my Netflix the other day, and I thought, that's a film for Liam.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Directed by Joe Wright, from a fucking, who's the novel by? Joel Flynn or Gillian Flynn? I can't bloody remember. It's not even worth remembering, to be perfectly honest with you. Amy Adams. This stars Amy Adams as Anna Fox, and she's a child psychologist who is afflicted with severe agoraphobia, and she's estranged from her husband and her daughter, and she lives alone in this really nice kind of lavish Manhattan brownstone apartment where she's got a tenant named David, who's kind of like a troubled parolee, played by Wyatt Russell, actually, Kurt Russell's kid. So they don't really look that much alike, but yeah, he's Kurt Russell's kid, so there's that. And one day, a new family move in at the house across the street. They moved in from Boston, and they are the Russell family. So you've got the paterfamilias Alistair Russell, played by Gary Oldman. You have the son, Ethan Russell, played by Fred Hetchinger. And Ethan's mother is also intimated to be around somewhere, but Anna doesn't immediately lay eyes on her. She only sees Alistair and Ethan moving in and milling around. So one night, during her many evenings of sitting around watching classic films and getting pissed out of her head, because this is what Anna does all day, There's a knock on the door, and it's the young kid, Ethan. He's soon to be 16 years old. And he's a bit of a strange kid. He doesn't really seem like an unpleasant sort of personality, but he seems very, very socially bizarre. He won't stop talking. He asks her quite invasive questions about her private life. But she sort of takes pity on him because it seems that there might be something wounded about him psychologically. She lets him borrow a few classic DVDs and sends him off across the road. And then the next day, it's Halloween, and there's a load of little shits pelting her house, and she tries to go outside to shoo them away, and she has a panic attack on account of the agoraphobia, and she collapses. When she comes to, there's a woman in front of her, giving her cold water, making sure that she, how many things am I holding up? Are you okay? Do I need to call an ambulance? And it turns out that this is Jane Russell, the matriarch of the Russell family, played by Julianne Moore. And she kind of Anna gets herself together, and they sit and have a bit of a chat, and then they spend the rest of the evening drinking some wine, talking about their personal lives. Anna goes back home. The next day, Alistair comes over saying, have my wife or my son been here at any time at all? And Anna lies and says no. And then eventually one evening, she's nosing around, spying on the family across the street through her binoculars, because they just do seem to be a very strange unit indeed.
Her binoculars?
Her binoculars. You can get the binoculars out. And she sees somebody stab Jane to death. So freaking out, she calls 911. The police come over. They immediately start interrogating her about her mental health history, and is she sure the events that she's described line up with reality? And she goes, what the hell are you talking about? And that's when the Russell family all walk in, including Jane Russell, who this time is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, and says to Anna, oh, hi, I'm Jane Russell. We've never met. So naturally, Anna and the audience supposedly are freaking the fuck out, going, what the hell is going on here?
She's been replaced.
Yes.
This wasn't just a disagreement on the production set and she was recast in the middle.
Yeah. Sorry, what are we doing here? What's going on? So Anna obviously is freaking the shit, and she is determined to get to the bottom of this mystery, because she knows in her heart that she met Jane Russell that night when she was played by Julianne Moore, and they bonded and they had lots of red wine together, and they talked about their personal lives and what made them the people they are today. She knows that happened. So, and she refuses to believe the assertions of Alistair Russell and his son and law enforcement and her own psychotherapist that you're deluded, you're too stressed, you're drinking too much, you're not getting enough sleep, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of ambiguity surrounding whether she really did see what she purports to see, or it's all in her head, psychological thriller. A psychological thriller that is so, it seems almost deluded in how it thinks it's being incredibly clever with the endless homages it throws to classic films.
I was going to say proper Hitchcock vibes going on.
Well, yeah. Well, this is the thing. The film is completely and utterly derivative of Rear Window. And I haven't read the novel, but if the screenplay is an accurate approximation of the novel, then so is the novel. And this is to the extent that scenes of, because Anna is like a cinephile, so she's a devotee of classic cinema. There are clips of her watching Laura, which is another great film, like from 1944, I believe. That's a classic. But at one point, Rear Window is playing in the background.
Okay.
And I think the film is being clever, or the film is attempting to be clever. I think that it is clever by these tips of the hat to like, oh, look at what we're paying reverence to. It's like, no, all you do in the final analysis once the credits roll on this is remind people that they should go and watch those films instead.
Yeah, that fourth wall breaking thing just sounds like a bad idea in concept.
It's not necessarily fourth wall breaking. It's just the problem with this film is that the story is just all over the place. It's absolutely all over the place. Amy Adams turns in a reasonable performance. Everyone else is diabolical. And this is a film that has Gary Oldman in top fucking billion, for Christ's sake.
You're kidding me. Gary Oldman's bad.
not bad. He's given nothing to work with.
Right, okay.
It's not that Gary Oldman delivers
I was going to say, I don't think I've seen a bad Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman does, as far as I'm concerned, Gary Oldman does not deliver anything in a shit way. But what he's got to work with here is so thin and abysmal. You just think, well, okay, I suppose that's another check in his bank account or something. We've all got to eat. But the other than that, everything is so appallingly flat. I like Brian Tyree Henry, but he plays one half of a detective pair who show up to grill Anna about what she claims to have seen. And these two are so... It's like somebody just threw somebody who'd woken up from a 10-year coma onto a film set and said, pretend you're a cop. Pretend you're a cop and this woman has some delusions and you're trying to talk her out of it and you're not very pleased with her for wasting police time. Because that's what it comes across as. Flat, monotonous, not convincing, like a half-assed attempt at being sinister and compounding Anna's already hectic mental state. It doesn't work. The payoffs, what reveals, when the film actually reveals what's been going on all this time, I didn't sit there and think, wow, that's a really clever reveal. I thought, what a steaming pile of fucking donkey shit bollocks. In fact, comparatively, if somebody says to you, we're going to watch Army of the Dead or we're going to watch Woman in the Window, you better fucking pick Army of the Dead. Because if you pick Woman in the Window, I'm going to be very upset with you because you're wasting your time. This is a really terrible film, man.
I'm glad I didn't watch it then.
Yeah, shit. It's absolute shit.
Fair enough.
Yes, there we go. So, so one really sucked hard. One could have been significantly better. There is a difference there, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go, mate. I hope your TV is going to be a shite sight more optimistic than this.
It is a little bit. It is indeed, yeah. Okay, then, well, yes, I shall get on with TV of the week, and it is indeed positive. To give sort of mini spoilers.
Goody gumdrops.
But yes, I've only got one thing to review this week, and this is called Startup.
Okay.
Aware of this one?
No, I'm not.
No, I wasn't either. First came out in 2017 on the Crackle network in the US. No, I've got no idea either. The Crackle network, a Crackle original production.
Is that like the US equivalent of fucking Stars TV or something?
I am aware of the Crackle network, but I don't think I've ever reviewed anything from it.
No.
Anyway, the reason this came up on my radar is because it's up on Netflix UK at the moment. And I believe Netflix all over the world actually has this. And it's been doing quite well. It's still sitting in the top 10 list currently. And there are 3 seasons in total, but only 2 of them are up on Netflix at the moment. So I'm halfway through season 2, which I thought was it's halfway through the whole of the piece. This is a good time to review it. This is set in Miami in the modern day. We're first introduced to Andy Tallman, played by Carl Weintraub. And he is an older gentleman in a sharp Miami-style suit, going up to a sleazy hotel room with a much younger lady in order to do the deed.
Yum, yum.
And as they're doing the deed on the bed, who walks in but Phil Rask, played by Martin Freeman. Now, Phil Rask is a government agent, and as they're having sex on the bed, he walks in, sits himself down on a chair in the corner. Andy looks up and goes, "What the hell?" And he goes, "Oh, no, don't let me interrupt. Don't let me interrupt." And it turns out that the reason Phil is there is because he is aware that Andy is a big Miami loan shark. And in his role as a government agent, he has become aware of the fact that he has recently come into the possession of $2 million of dirty money that he is currently laundering. And so in exchange for not shopping him, he wants half of the money. He's shaking down this loan shark.
Fucking hell. So already we got loan sharks and bent.
Yeah,
bent coppers.
Bent coppers.
As Line of Duty would say.
Yeah, every 5 minutes. Bent coppers. This is a bent cop. I hate bent coppers. Who's a bent copper? He's not a bent cop. Anyway, this isn't a Line of Duty review. Okay, so we then cut to Izzy Morales, played by Obmara Marrero. She is a young Latino woman being kicked out of her boyfriend's place. Her boyfriend isn't a particularly nice guy indeed. They have a huge row. And she takes out all of this server equipment, all of these computers in racks, and moves them into her parents' house. Her parents are not pleased to see her back again because she's a bit of a firecracker. She argues with her mum constantly. And because she's been kicked out of her boyfriend's place, she's had to move back home. And she's moving all this high-level computer gear back in with her because she is developing a cryptocurrency very new, very current. Bear in mind, 2017, this cryptocurrency was big then it died back down again, and now cryptocurrency is very relevant again.
Yeah.
There's constant news stories about it, so it's interesting this has cropped up on Netflix at this time. But anyway, she is developing GenCoin, and this is her version of the cryptocurrency future. Like a lot of modern cryptocurrencies, actually, the goal is to provide bank accounts and a new form of economic system for the unloved of society. Essentially, this isn't for big bankers to invest in. This is to replace banking systems within immigrant communities and that sort of thing and be a better way of financing. Anyway, her parents really, really don't understand this at all. They think she's just a dropout. She was Stanford educated. They worked their balls off to get her this education. She's, as far as they're concerned, just gone off, tucked away in a room, writing code all this time, and they don't get what she's doing. But she does have a big pitch. So she goes to a financial agency to pitch her new cryptocurrency coin to get seed money for it. And they just, again, don't understand it in the slightest. They're sort of the old school banks. They really don't get that cryptocurrency is the future. As far as they're concerned, she's just a young girl pitching a big wide-eyed concept to them.
Meddling kids.
Yeah, exactly. Which, again, actually is very, very current and ties in with the fact that all these banking agencies didn't cotton on to cryptocurrency back in 2017. However, sitting on the board of these people grilling her over her finances is Nick Tallman, played by Adam Brody. And he's young and he's up and coming and he's sort of representing the new modern cryptocurrency aware financier. And he's a bit disappointed that his colleagues next to him that are much more senior than him and have the real power in the situation aren't buying into this cryptocurrency concept because he actually quite likes her and he thinks she's got a good idea. Now, as you may have noticed, Nick Tallman is the son of Andy Tallman, the loan shark that I mentioned that was having sex on the bed. So he goes to see his dad of an evening and his dad is freaking out. And he's got this $2 million of money that he's attempting to launder. But he says, look, I've got this agent, this government agent up my ass for it at the moment. Would you hold on to the money for me? I need to skedaddle, but would you hold on to the money? Keep it safe for me until I get back. And Nick essentially says no, says, look, I'm not getting involved with your dirty deeds, Dad. All of my life, I've tried to go straight. You've always been this bad guy in the background. I'm not taking the money. Anyway, he thinks about it for a bit and goes off to see Izzy Morales because he thinks, actually, you know what, $2 million, why don't I give it to this girl and see whether her cryptocurrency thing would take off? I could invest this dirty money. We also meet at this point Ronald Dacey, played by Eddie Gathegi. He's a Haitian gangster living out in sort of these Haitian slums just outside of Miami. And he is very, very high up in the Haitian mafia. And he's running these small town schemes. He's got a lot of problems with the guy that he's set up this current mafia ring with has become bigger than he is. He's getting really aggressive. There's drive-by shootings every day. He's got a young family and he's very worried that his son is being drawn into all this gang violence and he wants a better future for them. We cut again back to Nick. He's now given the money to Izzy. He goes back to his dad's place to tell him what he's done with the dirty money, opens the door and his dad has skedaddled and there is paper all over the floor. The drawers are turned over. The furniture is all over the place. And his dad is completely missing. He turns around to see Ronald Dacey, the Haitian mafia gangster, sitting in the flat waiting for him and promptly beats him over the head. Because guess where $300,000 of that dirty money came from?
The Haitian mobster's pocket.
Yeah, this was Haitian gangster money that he was laundering through Nick's dad. So there's an initial scramble where he goes, I want my money back. And Nick goes, well, I invested it in this cryptocurrency, in this new thing, GenCoin. It's going to make so much money. You know, you're going to get your money back 10 times over. He goes, no, fuck it. I want my money back. So Nick and Izzy now have to scramble around to try and get this $300,000 back. They eventually managed to pull together half of the money by being clever with moving some things around. And they go, okay, you know what? We're going to meet up with him. We're going to offer to give him half the money back. We're going to get him the other half, and hopefully that'll do for him because he's a very dangerous and scary man indeed. However, when they meet back up, turns out Ronald has been reading all the blurb on their website and all the portfolio and thinking about his position in the world and how the gangster life is unsustainable and he wants a better life for his son. He doesn't want the money back anymore. He wants to be a partner in their new cryptocurrency business.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, oh fuck, indeed. Meanwhile, Phil Rask, Martin Freeman, is attempting to chase down where this $2 million went so he can get his half back. All up to date with that one?
Yeah, makes sense.
You got those different elements going on?
Yeah.
It's another one of those ones where it's quite a lot of characters at once in the first episode, but when you lay it out like that, the plot through line is relatively simple.
A lot of organised crime going on. I like that. That's good.
Well, this is an interesting show, actually, because, like I said at the start, I wasn't particularly aware of it to begin with. And what it's doing, I mean, there's a lot of parallels there, actually, with Silicon Valley. Now, if you didn't listen to our early stuff, and I wouldn't blame you because the audio wasn't great, we had worse equipment back in those days, is my excuse for that one. But I loved Silicon Valley, which is about a bunch of geeks starting up a startup company and going through all the trials and tribulations of getting themselves funded. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And it turns out to be sort of a madcap farce kind of thing. But that was very much, it was a Mike Judge comedy. And it was very obviously going straight for comedy with some emotional heart thrown in. This is that same setup, but it's much, much more like The Wire. In what it's doing is it's taking Miami and it's showing you this one plot through line through the different facets of society in this one city. So you've got the Haitian mob at the bottom that are very, very dangerous, but they're making small money by comparison to everybody else. You've got the big millionaires at the top that don't really understand the system that they're within. As long as they're making money, they don't really give a fuck about a new cryptocurrency that might change the world. It's showing those different intersectional sort of elements of society all together through one plot through line, which I really, really liked. Let's talk about performances for a second here. Martin Freeman, let's start off with him as Phil Rask. I've never seen a performance like this from Martin Freeman. He normally goes for comedy roles or roles with quite a lot of comedy in them. Believe me, there is nothing funny about him in this. He's actually pretty terrifying. Phil Rask.
Martin Freeman.
I know. I was surprised as well.
Tim from The Office.
I know.
I'm just really intrigued to see that.
It kind of blew my mind as well. I mean, he's doing an American accent.
I know he was in Fargo and stuff, but he was quite a timid individual in that. So.
Yeah. He often plays those sort of funny guy on the sidelines or the straight man in a comedy or that sort of thing. No. In this, he's playing a proper psychopath cop that is capable of being very cold one minute, very warm the next minute, in a very fake sort of way, and bursts of explosive anger that make him really genuinely terrifying. I couldn't believe it either. And he's doing an American accent that to my British ears sounds spot on as well. You forget that it's Martin Freeman doing an accent within 2 minutes of him being on screen. But yeah, he really, really pulls off a psychopathic, violent, unpredictable cop with absolute aplomb. Really, really great performance, and great to see that he's got that in him as well. You wouldn't believe he could be scary. He is really, really scary in this.
Cool.
But the stand-up performance has to go to Eddie Gathegi as Ronald Dacey, the Haitian mob gangster. I mean, this guy just sets the screen on fire. His eyes are so expressive and intuitive. The way he uses his physical form, I mean, he's a big guy, but he's got a very nuanced role as well. You see him from all angles. You see him be this incredibly scary mobster that's absolutely terrifying. And they use that to their advantage as well as the show goes on. He actually becomes an asset to them because of his ability to scare the shit out of people. But you also see his family life and why he's doing this in the first place, the love he has between himself and his son and his daughter as well, and his wife that doesn't quite understand because they've all been brought up within the gangster life, and he's trying to get them out, but they don't quite get that because they just don't get that extra world that's living above them. They don't think they can interact with it.
They have no frame of reference.
Yeah, and so it's talking about sort of social injustice on that level as well. And this is all tied in with the fact that they're trying to build a cryptocurrency that is all about ending social injustice. So some clever through lines there as well. Fantastic performance from Eddie. Really, really wonderful actor. Loved it a lot. I also really love the visual style of this. I mean, it's gritty in a really nice way. It knows when to switch between handheld camera shots and more cinematic kind of stuff. So it's got a real edge to it. It's got some sort of grainy colors and Miami at night, and you get to like the Haitian part of town and all the sort of Caribbean colors and all that start coming in, and then the very austere glass and plastic and steel of these big offices they end up going to. It contrasts that all really, really nicely while using those visuals as an extra way of showing the social inequalities of the town that it's, or the city rather, that it's portraying. Really, really nicely done. I like this a lot. I think it's really well written. It's not, humor-wise, there's not much humor in it, but when it's there, it does punch quite nicely. it's got a great way of bringing its characters together. It's the classic three unlikely characters formed together to form something bigger than themselves for their own different personal reasons. And it threads that narrative together really, really well. It's a stunning bit of work, this, actually. I can't believe I didn't hear from it previously. And I think it's gaining that traction on Netflix at the moment because people are going, oh, wow, where did this come from? And there are 3 seasons of it?
Yeah, I've never heard of it before you brought it up.
Yeah.
But it sounds really cool, though.
It's really, really got something. Like I said, I'm going to finish it off and do the rest of season 2 and season 3 as well. But everything I've seen so far is really, really consistent. And there's a real element of quality to it as well. There's quality in the performances. There's quality in the visuals. There's quality in the writing. There's quality in the way it carries off its narratives in a way that you really wouldn't expect from something that's got this little hype. And I'm really hoping that this is, it being on Netflix now, a lot of people watching it, is getting it that delayed resurgence that it really should have had in the first place. I hate to bring it up again because it's one of those reviewer mentions that comes up occasionally when you're talking about something brilliant and people roll their eyes and go, oh yeah, okay, that's an easy one. But there is quite a lot of Breaking Bad. And that, that everything going wrong at once and very violent characters coming in and out and a very vivid, pacey farce that's actually very dark when it needs to be. And the violence in this is quite heavy as well, I will say that. But I appreciated that about it.
That's a box tick for me, as you know.
It was pulling no punches when it comes to the violent stuff. The violence, when it does happen, is crunchy. And that adds weight to the narrative in a way that I really appreciated. Yes, you can make those comparisons to Silicon Valley, only in the sense that it's 2 shows about startup companies in the tech world. But this is so different because their startup is coming from a place of grit and a deprived upbringing and all those socioeconomic factors that separate people within a society structure, within a city structure, all coming together at once to form one thing. I think it's really clever. I like it.
So off the back of that, would it is it too sort of reductive or simplistic a summation, like to assume that Martin Freeman is the antagonist of the piece? Is it a lot more nuanced than that? Or?
Yes, I mean, he is the primary antagonist, although other antagonists appear along the way. Like I said, Ronald's got his own issues going on with his Haitian gangster hierarchy. And there's the aspect of Izzy and her family as well. And her family are a different generation. They worked really hard in restaurants, and her dad works as a dock worker and paid all this money for her to go to Stanford, and they feel like she wasted it. So it's doing all those different sections really, really well and pulling them all together. And of course, you've got Nick as well, who is, they keep calling him, like the white kid, this Palm Beach, flashy sunglasses, nice car, dad's very rich, but really he's the son of a loan shark. And that's always dogged him throughout his life. So they've all got this nice interwoven backstory that comes together. They all come from places of hardship. And that is shown in layers, which I think is really clever writing. It's a punchy, pacey, well-shot, well-acted show with some performances in it that are some of the best I've seen all year. I would really, really recommend it.
That sounds great. So, yeah, and I like the way you've described it, man. So.
And watch out for Eddie Gathegi as well, because he's so great in this, but I can see him I can see him doing everything.
Is Eddie Gathegi, is he from Haiti?
I think he's Kenyan.
Actually. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he's played Haitians in a few things.
Cool.
I wouldn't be able to tell you whether his portrayal, I don't know enough about Haiti to know whether they're getting that right or not, but it feels authentic from what I know anyway. And yeah, Martin Freeman being scary, I mean, that's worth the price of entry.
Yeah, no. It's definitely one to catch up with, man. Thank you.
Well then, in which case, I'm going to go on to trivia now. And initially, and I do apologize to anybody listening from Florida, I have been, and some of it's lovely and some of it isn't. But I was going to do some nice trivia about Florida and Miami. And then, of course, you fall down the rabbit hole of Florida Man, don't you?
Florida Man.
Yes, the news headlines of Florida Man does this, Florida Man does that. And it's always something utterly bizarre.
Oh, yes, yeah. I'm familiar with what you mean now.
It's pretty much a cultural meme at this point. The Florida Man does something absolutely ridiculous. And there are many, many websites devoted to collecting these Florida Man stories together. And they're so much fun. I had to do them. So I do apologize if you're listening from Florida. We love you, really. But I did find out one really interesting fact about Florida before we start, actually.
What's that?
There are no dinosaur fossils.
In Florida?
No, because in the age of the dinosaurs, Florida was underwater.
Oh, well, I thought you were going to say, like... Florida's the only place that was intelligently designed. And look at the fucking state of it.
Yeah, that would be funny, wouldn't it? Anyway, would you like some Florida man stories?
Yes.
Okay, let's start off with this one. Florida man offers police officer $3 and chicken dinner for sex. A female investigator went undercover and posed as a street-level prostitute. During the operation, police said one of the suspects, Stephen Torres, offered to trade $3 and a chicken dinner for a sexual act.
Isn't that entrapment?
I don't know what the entrapment laws are in Florida.
That sounds like fucking entrapment to me, man.
I mean, you'd be insulted, wouldn't you? $3 and a chicken dinner. I mean, come on.
It's like if it was, $500, I'd look the other way.
Florida man flashes buttocks at IHOP after impersonating a police officer to get free food. Matt Skyter, 55, entered the IHOP around 1 a.m. Friday and told a server who asked if he had money, "No, but I am a cop and I get food for free," according to a police report obtained by the Orlando Sentinel. He then threatened to beat up the IHOP server and shouted, "Hey, buddy," before dropping his pants and exposing his buttocks, according to the Sentinel.
Police around here are weird, man.
Florida man claims wife was kidnapped by holograms. The man, whose name has not been released, was extremely agitated and holding a baseball bat when officials arrived. He told them that the men abducted his wife and that they used holograms to project signals on the walls to get him to do what they wanted and to communicate with each other, according to a sheriff's report. The responding deputy located the woman in question, who was at a nearby mobile home with the man's aunt. The aunt told investigators that the woman was drunk and that no one had chased her.
Well, who'd have thunk?
I like this one. Florida man launches chair at mailman because he had no mail for him.
What?
The mailman told Officer Carl Drawdy that Smith approached the driver's side of his truck. The postal carrier said he tried explaining to Smith that the reason he did not receive any mail was because there was none for him. The mailman said Smith got angry and struck him with an open fist at least 3 times on the right arm. Smith, he said, then walked away from the vehicle, picked up a broken chair and threw it at the mail truck.
What the fuck?
Waiting for some very important post, obviously.
Well, yeah, I'd hope so. Not that that justifies that reaction at all, but I hate it when things arrive in the mail. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I hate getting post
I
as
don't
well.
like getting
It always worries me.
Yeah,
if I get a letter.
it's like, what is this bullshit? Why have they sent me this bullshit?
Yeah.
I don't know. Certainly don't. If a postie walks past and there's nothing for me, it's just like, well, that's good.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, thank you for not bothering me with any shit.
Florida man attacks nephew over undercooked noodles. At about midnight at Gardenia Gardens Apartments, Newton's nephew told him the noodles Newton made were undercooked, according to the report. Newton started screaming and shoved him in the face. He went to another apartment in the complex where Newton followed him. They started arguing again, and Newton rushed towards him with the knife while making slashing motions, according to the report. During questioning, Newton said he had been drinking and said it can affect his demeanour. He said the argument never got physical and denied picking up the knife.
The argument, didn't you just say that he shoved him in the face?
Yes, he said the argument never got physical, although drinking can affect his demeanour.
Okay, I think you need to kind of look up what the term physical means, mate, because you don't really seem to have a grasp on that or functional life in general. What the fuck?
And my last one here, it's a cheery one, this. Florida man sets apartment complex on fire after manager told him to stop masturbating in front of the windows. This is from the Tampa Bay Times. He set the blaze, according to police, to get back at the management of the apartment complex, whom he felt had treated him unjustly. His reason? They had recently told him to stop masturbating in front of his open windows and front door, according to police. He was arrested on a charge of first-degree arson and held in the Orient Road jail without bail.
This is like sort of like weird Milton fanfic. I was told I could masturbate at a reasonable volume, could set the building on fire.
Actually, I do have one more here because we do have time.
Go on.
Do you want one more?
Yes, please.
Florida man escapes adult novelty store with $300 Jenna Jameson doll in tow. The suspect walked up to the counter of the Inner Secrets shop in Vero Beach and asked worker Catherine Morales some questions about the doll. Following the perp's question time, he grabbed the doll off the counter and ran out of the store without paying for the product. While the Jenna Jameson doll is not further described by investigators, it appears likely that the stolen item was the Jenna Jameson Extreme doll, a battery-powered model in the likeness of the 39-year-old porn star. Along with a vibrating ultra-soft mouth, the full-size Jameson doll, its manufacturer notes, features an exquisite lifelike removable pussy and ass.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah.
Jesus
I
Christ.
don't really have any comment on that one. You know, I don't know what the going rate for sex dolls is. $300 for a exquisite lifelike removable, etc.
They use that. They couldn't
sounds a bargain to
couldn't
me.
even say like just for the purpose of surface propriety as a removable artificial vagina and anus. They had to say pussy and arse.
I wonder why you can remove it. I presume for cleaning. I would hope for cleaning purposes.
Oh gosh, Jesus Christ!
You know, wash it in the sink.
I'm not a prude, but I just nah.
I know what you're getting for Christmas this year, Lee.
Yeah. I will one up you, man. I'll one up you in ways you won't like. So.
Well, on that note, that's the end of the free podcast this week. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We're off to record the premium podcast now. Liam's got some extra takes for us.
Certainly do.
And then I have a fiendishly difficult, I've called it a fiendishly, it's not really fiendishly difficult. Some of them are really difficult, some of them aren't. But a quiz for you, Liam.
Excellent.
And of course, the audience at home, please do play along. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please do check out cinementalist.com for a link to our Patreon page. You can follow us at Cinementalcast on Twitter, or you can follow Liam at
the Movies at Wacko Jacko's Flicks.
Okie dokie, that wraps up for this week, mate. Anything to add?
Now, thank you very much as always for listening, people. We really value you guys. Hope you've enjoyed the content. Obviously, gravitate towards the good shit and stay away from the bad shit. I mean, it's up to you what you do, but, are our words worth nothing? No, cheers, guys. And catch you next week, I guess.
Yeah, catch you next week, guys. Hope to see you in the premium. Take it easy.